Welcome to our presentation. My name is Zan Ta. I'm with Repro Products in Smyrna, Georgia. Our presentation today is being presented by our host guest speaker, Kim Renshaw from Autodesk. And the title is Technology Advancements and Autodesk Subscription Model. Before we get started, one last quick verification. Everyone should be able to see the slide deck that Kim is projecting, and it should show you the Repro Products page. And your audio should be set so you can hear my voice and actually Kim's voice as well when she's ready to present. For those who have any kind of questions during the presentation, they can use the Q&A box to input any questions that they have, and I will answer them as quickly as I can. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. For those who are unfamiliar with Repro Products, we have been in the business for well over 35 years. We are an Autodesk Gold partner, and we have a very diversified company, actually. We do everything from Autodesk sales support, training, to advancing the AEC community through printers, plotters, multifunctioning devices. We do all the types of implementation you can think about as well. And we do a lot of community work, actually, for those who are not aware. For those who are local to our location, if you'd like to try to come and visit our office, please do so. You can ask anybody here to ask for a tour, and they'll be more than happy to stop what they're doing and give you a tour. And that's just a little bit about Autodesk Repro Products and how long we've been in the business. Next slide, Kim. And then also, for those who are unfamiliar, we actually have in the wide format division, not only do we sell and we support all of the multifunctioning devices and large format printers and plotters, we are also resellers for Autodesk, Canon, HP, KIP, Xerox, and we do digital plan storage as well. Lastly, we also have another sister company called The Color Spot that does quite a bit of vehicle signage and graphics display, wayfaring, things like that. And so that's just a little bit about us, Repro Products, as a company and how we've integrated very well with Autodesk. With that, I'd like to hand the presentation over to Kim Renshaw. And thank you, everybody, for attending.
Well, thank you, Don. It is a pleasure to join the Repro Products team for this webcast. And today I really want to not only talk about the business transition and the subscription model transition Autodesk has been going through, but step back and take a look at changes very briefly that are happening both in the AEC and manufacturing markets and what is driving many of the changes that you see Autodesk responding to. You know, technology as a whole has always disrupted how the business of manufacturing and making things has changed. And I use the word disrupted, and disrupted doesn't necessarily mean negative. When disruptions have come from technology changes, it really does drive a change in processes as well as brings along new opportunities. You know, today, in addition to how things are being made, we're also seeing changes in how things are used, sold, and serviced. And it is impacting across numbers of different industries. You know, today we see things like medical devices that are designed for individuals being produced and manufactured, customized for that customer, and being produced as a one-off very cost-effectively and very quickly. We see companies like Rolls-Royce with their Power by the Hour program and how they're changing the fundamental business model related to selling jet engines. And then we see companies like Google, who has introduced to the market their product called Nest. And they're selling Nest not because they want to sell thermostats, but instead they see Nest as a piece of the connected home or work environment, and it's a way to expand their reach. So clearly, technology advancement has the potential to impact a wide range of businesses, including your business. I'm just going to drill into this a little bit further again and talk about how technology is creating disruptions in both the manufacturing and the AEC markets. Today, the status quo is being disrupted by industry forces and technologies and is really reshaping three big buckets of the market. One is how things are designed and made, how we can refer to production. What customers care about and who and where they are in terms of how and where they want to utilize either the spaces or the product. We refer to this as demand. And then, of course, there's the products themselves, how they're being made, how they're being designed, and what the requirements are for each one. You know, it's no surprise that products are connected and networked, and this is true for all industries. Products that gather and communicate data are now commonplace. They not only perform a task, but they're also part of a greater ecosystem. The result is that they are more complex, requiring sensors, electronics, and embedded software. This also extends to the manufacturing floor as well as to the building itself. These connections also make products more sticky. Take the new Apple Watch, for example. If you invest in an Apple Watch, it requires you to have an iPhone, which will greatly reduce the likelihood that you as a consumer will now replace that iPhone with a competitive product, because that would necessitate the replacement of your watch. We also see the means of production are also changing. Communication expansion and connectivity means that organizations like GM can work collaboratively on a design project across the globe to reach the local taste and culture more effectively. It also means small startup companies can establish an instant supply chain with micro factories and specialty manufacturing. Manufacturing is becoming more flexible and fully automated so that production changes can happen quicker, meaning small runs that are more cost-effective and product updates can occur more easily without large investment. It means that new ideas can be brought to the market faster and by anyone. Finally, the way manufacturers consider traditional protection of the IP through patents is also changing. Take Tesla, for example, who recently opened the IP rights to their Model S, knowing that their strongest differentiator lies in their powertrain, manufacturing, and distribution competency. Now, disruption technology is also driving changes in buildings. Just as with manufacturing, physical things are connected to one another, and they're becoming more deeply interconnected, creating systems. The physical and the digital interconnection creates new opportunities to even add value to a built asset or space. The Nest thermostat, which I referenced earlier, learns an occupant's behaviors and offers better environmental control and energy efficiency. This data-driven insight about how we use a space is scaling up to even environments like the Midfield Airport Terminal in Dubai. Here, they use sophisticated technology for innovating baggage handling, for managing duty-free item sales, as well as processing passengers. This connected data provides us a way to respond to the demand for high performance across many dimensions, whether there be occupancy levels, energy performance, or even water usage as examples. These connected systems will create opportunities for building owners and occupants, designers and contractors, and product manufacturers, literally the entire ecosystem, and enables them to collectively join their capabilities to drive stronger results. In the future, buildings and their elements will generate streams of data, and these objects will be the data which we'll use to form connected systems of insight to creating the next generation of buildings. We'll understand through these linkages how spaces and structures perform in terms of systems, both environmentally and economically. We'll have more insight and control from any place and at any time to reduce energy consumption, build more efficiently, even develop more responsive spaces. The vision can be as large as the owners and the consumers want them to be. The key takeaway, whether it's from manufacturing perspective or within the AEC market, is we can see a big impact and a bigger impact being made by each small decision we make, whether that be during design, in construction or manufacturing, in the operations, or even in the occupation of a space. If you currently have customers or projects that may not be leveraging more data-driven systems or driving that demand to be able to control and have cost-effective controls from anywhere at any time, you will be in the near future. And the key takeaway is always to be looking at what technology you're using to ensure that not only are you competitive today, but you're competitive going forward. Understanding what your customers' advantages and differentiations are that they're looking for and how you can provide services to meet those. Now, underlying these changes is also an evolution in technology used to design things. At Autodesk, we've divided this evolution into 3 technology eras: the eras of documentation, optimization, and connection. The era of documentation was focused on digitizing existing processes and managing the data that resulted. It provided efficiencies but did not really fundamentally change the processes. The era of optimization provided new ways to solve problems that could not be solved effectively with traditional development or even prototyping. This allowed companies to increase their capabilities, reduce costs, as well as reduce time to market. Now, the third era, which really is the era that we've entered into currently, is the era of connection. And this is really about extending the ability and companies' abilities to connect their business processes and collaborate with stakeholders, and to change the way they operate, to transform from product-only businesses to an enterprise model where products become platforms for services. It's important to realize that each era incorporates the era that came before, and it's not as if documentation goes away when a company adopts optimization. Similarly, a company that moved into the era of connection still optimizes products during development. A key takeaway again for you here is that what is changing is that the capabilities you need to compete are ramping up. Because disruption, as it always does, it also creates a new era of competition. And this era can be categorized into 4 segments. First, it's access to unlimited processing power, and you'll need it in many cases to solve complex problems. You can also see the pressure in terms of access to talent. There'll be seamless connection of talent so that the best ideas can come forward and are considered. We'll also see intelligent digital connectivity of products as well as buildings, and how this is going to unlock new forms of value moving forward. We also see an impact to capital. It's going to free access to capital by reducing risks, and it'll even make it possible to access sources of alternative financing like crowdfunding. These capabilities, and this is another key takeaway, are going to be available to any company regardless of size, type, or location. The barrier to access will be low. In the past, some of these components have actually been the differentiator for some companies of how they distinguish themselves from their competition. Whether they had strong processing power and could quickly do analysis and respond to needs, whether it was their talent pool or access to capital. So again, the competition and the new era of competition will be the result because the barriers to all of these will be lowered and available to everyone. Now, also in this new world is the subscription will become the new norm. This is not unique to Autodesk or even the software. In fact, you may see benefits of this in your personal lives today. A subscription that enables you to access information at any time from anywhere. So let me just sidestep just for a few minutes and look at some things that many of you might even be taking advantage of today. You know, we've seen a big shift in the news, and people still can have a newspaper delivered to their front door and read through the paper, reading a cup of coffee. But more and more people are subscribing to their news. So then not only do they have it at their fingertips when they're at home, but they can choose on what device is convenient to read it from, you know, when they want to read it, as well as no longer having to wait till they get home to find out what's happening locally. They can be on the other side of the world and see in real time what's happening in their local community. We see changes with entertainment, and you still can go down to a local brick and mortar store and hope that they have the movie you want to rent for that evening and be able to take it home. But again, more and more people are subscribing to the digital entertainment and the streaming capabilities so that they can access the entertainment they want when they want it across the device they want it, whether they're at home, at a friend's, or on the other side of the world in a hotel room. You know, a third example, and many of you I'm sure can relate to this in terms of traffic and navigational systems. You know, a few years ago I purchased a new car and I had a navigational system put into the car. And particularly here in the Atlanta market, it is a great benefit to have, and particularly with rerouting. But it's interesting because the software is still beneficial, but in the recent years I have changed how I access that software. I now can access it from my smartphone. So no longer am I tied to my vehicle or having to be sitting in the car to figure out what is the best route and when should I leave. Now I can sit in my office and look at what the traffic patterns are and decide when I should leave for a meeting and what the best route to go is. The convenience is brought by being able to access the digital information from anywhere at any time. So let me bring this back to the Autodesk subscription models and how these benefits that many people experience from a subscription base and their personal lives will be no different going forward in the business world. Autodesk has been delivering all of our technologies under one form of subscription or another. We have 3 subscription vehicles today. We have maintenance subscription, and I'll come back and talk about each one of these in more detail, but maintenance subscription that are tied to permanent licenses. A couple of years ago, we introduced our desktop subscriptions, and then we also have been delivering new technologies via our cloud subscription services. Now, our cloud subscription services have offerings like our A360, Fusion 360, BIM 360 solutions, and we'll continue to bring more technologies to the market via a cloud service. We're not making any changes, or I don't have any changes to announce regarding the cloud-based services, so I'm not going to spend much time here other than to contrast that against our desktop and our permanent. Now let me go back to the maintenance subscription contracts. Autodesk, a couple of years ago, announced our transition to have all of our solutions delivered via subscription basis. And we started to make that transition, and we've communicated out to our customer base what our intent and what our mode was going to be moving towards so customers could plan. We're now coming up against the next 2 kind of benchmarks or deadline dates, which I'm going to talk about in more detail here in a few minutes. But I wanted to share with you, as many of you know, that last year we even discontinued our upgrades. And anybody who has a permanent license, the way for them to keep that license current or have access to the newest releases, as well as some additional benefits like product support or previous use rights or some global use rights, are all built into their maintenance subscription contract. As you know, permanent licenses are installed and tagged to a device. And as we talk about some of the disruptions that are coming into the market and wanting to have easier access and more flexibility, we introduced the desktop subscription models which provide that. As I shared, we introduced these a couple of years ago, and we will continue to bring all of our software and are transitioning to deliver all of our software via this model also. So let's take a little bit closer look. Here's a comparison of some of our applications or different vehicles for subscription. Again, I'm not going to talk much about the cloud application because we really are not impacting this with our business model transition, but I would like to compare the maintenance and the desktop subscriptions for you. You know, our maintenance subscription is a subscription contract, as I shared earlier, that provides some basic support, provides access to the latest software, as well as product enhancements, and things like previous use rights. This is the way that somebody who has a permanent license has the opportunity to keep that license current. Now, a permanent license, again, is tagged to your, assigned to your hardware that you have, and that is a license to software that you can use indefinitely. So even if you did not have that license on a maintenance subscription contract, you can use that license for as long as you would like to in the current release that you currently have rights to. Now, of course, as many of you are aware, in a permanent license, your software and your data are stored locally. And I share that because it'll be good for you to relate to that as we talk about the desktop subscription. Now, one change that is coming for our maintenance subscription contracts, and this is where we are unifying all of our subscription vehicles to work the same. Currently, our desktop subscriptions and our cloud subscriptions all need to be renewed on time. If they expire or if the contract lags, then you don't have access to that software. In the maintenance subscription contracts, effective January 31st of this year, so just a couple of weeks away, all maintenance subscription contracts will need to be renewed early or on time. Now, they really need to be renewed on time, but I say early because you do have the option to renew a maintenance subscription contract 90 days prior to its expiration. And it's key that you don't let it expire if these extra maintenance subscription contract benefits are important to you. If the contract expires after January 31st, there are no options to do late renewals or pay late fees. You will not be able to renew that contract, but what you will do is shift over to a desktop subscription license. So let me talk about the desktop subscription licenses and how those vary from a permanent license and where it brings more flexibility to the market so you understand why Autodesk is making this shift forward. First of all, the desktop licenses are really for a specific period of time, unlike the permanent license. The desktop license provides customers flexibility in a number of different scenarios. I can purchase and acquire a desktop license for a 30-day time period, a 3-month or quarter time period, or for 1 year. And just like a maintenance subscription contract, I can extend a desktop subscription contract out for 2 or 3 years. And in both of those cases, you really lock down today's pricing for the next 2 to 3 years. Now, the additional flexibility that this time-based or term-based license brings crosses a number of different scenarios. For example, if you have some ebb and flow within your staffing or your project load, as you need to staff up and increase staffing for a particular project, you can purchase the software for the time frame that you need, and when you no longer need the software, you can release it and not renew it, and you're no longer needed to keep maintenance on a license you're not utilizing. At a later date, when your staffing picks back up, you can again purchase the license for the time period that you need to meet your current workload. Now, some additional flexibility that this brings is a low cost of entry. To purchase a license of desktop subscription takes significantly lower capital investment than it did for a permanent license. Now, this is very helpful, particularly as we bring new technologies to the market or you have new projects where you want to either pilot or utilize a unique technology. You can do it very cost effectively. No more do you need to put a large permanent license investment to pilot some software, use it for a unique project, or even work with it for a period of time to see how you might incorporate it into your current work process. Again, you can acquire it for as short or for as long a term that you need. Now, the subscription benefits to a desktop subscription are the same benefits that we have under a maintenance subscription. You have your basic support, latest software, you get your previous use rights, as well as everything else that comes with a maintenance subscription contract. You get the same version of software as you would with a permanent license. Now, one other component of flexibility for the desktop licenses is that a desktop license is assigned to the user versus to the hardware. So currently today we are selling single-user desktop licenses. So if you're interested in networking, just hold on for a few minutes because I'm going to come back and address your networking options. But since the software is tagged to a user as a single user, that means I can acquire a license and I can install it on as many pieces of hardware as I would like to use. I can install it in a work machine, a home desktop machine, maybe a laptop if I travel, as well as a tablet if it supports my software. The login is tied to the user, so I can choose which device I want to work from. The software is stored locally on your devices, just like a permanent license, as well as your data can be stored locally. Now, on a single user, just as many of you are doing today with a permanent license, you go to the internet, you download your software, download your license, and activate it. You can then disconnect from the internet to work for 30 days at a time. About 7 days prior to that 30-day period, you get an in-software notice to re-log onto the internet to revalidate. Now, if this is not, and of course, then you can disconnect again for another 30 days. If that's not a convenient model for you, again, stay tuned because the networking license brings a little more flexibility with that. As we move forward, we know that we will have customers who are choosing to retain their permanent licenses and keep them current and leverage the benefits via a maintenance subscription contract. We also have customers today who have hybrid work environments where they have perpetual or permanent licenses and they're keeping them on maintenance subscription as well as some desktop subscription. We also have customers today who are working fully on a desktop subscription model. So all of these models will be supported. We'll continue to provide the maintenance subscription for those who have permanent licenses. You will see, particularly with networking, there'll be an ease of use for deployment and usage in hybrid environments. And of course, as I shared, we have customers today who are solely on a desktop subscription model. Here's another view of many of the benefits that are available to you via your maintenance subscription, and you can see the same benefits are available via the desktop subscription. Now, take a moment to note that home use rights is important to many of you, and again, it's available in both models. Desktop subscription allows you to install it on more devices than just the home use. Both subscriptions provide previous version rights, so you can have access to pre-releases back. If you currently are on maintenance subscription, and this is a valuable benefit to you, please know that you need to keep your maintenance subscription contracts current so that you have access to the previous version. If your maintenance subscription contract expires, you no longer have legal right to previous versions. And I know particularly within the AEC market, this can be very important. Both contracts also provide global use rights, meaning you can take the software on a laptop outside of the country, of your home country, for up to 90 days in any given calendar year. If you need usage of the software outside of the country for more than 90 days, Autodesk does provide things like extraterritorial rights and global territorial rights to allow you licensing to be more global, if that's what you need. Now notice the pay-as-you-go option is really the only option available for desktop subscription, again, because you can choose to acquire a license for 30 days, a quarter, or a year. And again, 2 or 3 years if you want to do a multi-year contract. Now under network licensing, we certainly have that available for our permanent licenses, but notice that it says coming soon under desktop subscription. And I'd like to share with you, just in a few short weeks, it'll be available for you from a network perspective. We'll be introducing term-based network licenses. So we don't have the final name for it, so I'm just going to kind of use this terminology. But it really is allowing a term-based license to either be put onto a network or incorporated into one of your existing permanent license networks. Now, for most of you, you're probably wondering, how is this going to work? So from a high level, let me share with you at least, or try to address some of the most common questions that come up. So a term-based network license will utilize the same licensing file technology that is currently used for permanent network licenses. So this means that you'll be able to merge term-based network license files with your existing license files that you're currently running for your permanent licenses. They also will coexist on the same license server, so there's no reason to run a separate server. In fact, you can continue using the Network License Manager utility if that's what you use today. There's no reason to bring in any change in license management utilities. The Network License Manager utility will manage both your term-based or subscription network licenses as well as your permanent network licenses. Now, I talked about the single-user licenses being available today, and again, they're in a 30-day or even a quarter time frame or term. When we introduce the term-based network licenses, they will only be available in a 1, 2, or 3-year license term. We will not be offering a network license in a 30-day license or the quarterly. And we'll be bringing to market all of the individual software products that we currently have available as a permanent license will be made available via a network term-based subscription license. So again, the individual solution products will be made available as network licenses. And these will be available in February, and I believe probably in the first part of February. I don't have a specific date to share with you right now. Now here's a URL that you can also reference on Autodesk.com, as well as I know that Repro Products can assist you with this. If you have some additional questions, there is a frequently asked question document out on our site that you can reference. So let me kind of switch and talk about some upcoming key dates and make sure I can address maybe some of the most common questions around those. The first date you want to take note of really is right around the corner, and that's January 31st. This will be the last opportunity to purchase new permanent seats of most of our individual solutions. Now, January 31st is a Sunday, so if you have an interest in acquiring additional licenses, I encourage you to do it today. Do it tomorrow. Do not wait till next week or wait till the last business day, which is the 29th of January. This date really impacts customers who are looking again to purchase new software licenses and the permanent license type. Again, if you currently own some permanent licenses, you can continue using the software you have indefinitely. And the key to keeping that software up to date as well as gaining the extra benefits is via your maintenance subscription contract. These are the products affected in the U.S. and Canada on January 31st. So if you own any of these permanent licenses that you see on the screen, January 31st, and again, I recommend you do it sooner than later, will be the last date if you want to acquire any additional permanent licenses. I'll also share with you that if you have any of these licenses as a permanent license and it's currently a standalone, and you would like to have a network-activated permanent license, you can do that up through January 31st. After January 31st, you will not have the ability to transition a permanent standalone license to a network. Also, if you own any of these licenses that I have on the screen, and they are in the current release that Autodesk sells, and you do not have it under a maintenance subscription contract, you have between now and the end of next week to add a maintenance subscription contract to it. Again, at the bottom of the screen is the URL that will give you, again, this complete list of products impacted for the U.S. and Canada on January 31st. The next key date I want to make sure you're aware of is July 31st of 2016, so we're a little over 6 months away. And this will be the last opportunity to purchase new permanent seats of most of our suite solutions, as well as some additional standalone products. Here's a complete list of the products affected in the U.S. and Canada by July 31st. Now, I will note that this is a worldwide change that Autodesk is doing. Some of the other countries in the world have transitioned faster. And so that's why I'm saying these are the products affected in the U.S. and Canada. If you have office locations in other countries outside the U.S. and Canada, you might have different deadline dates, and they may already have passed. And again, you'll find those also on the Autodesk.com website. Just as I shared with individual products, if you currently own any of these permanent licenses and you would like to convert them from a standalone to a network-activated permanent license, you have until July 31st to do that transition. Now, some common questions that come up I'd like to address. Some of them I've already touched on, so I'll just briefly mention them again because I think that they are key. And again, the big key takeaway is you have permanent licenses. You can continue to use those as long as you would like, even after the deadlines that I've shared. The deadlines really impact somebody who would like to purchase a new permanent seat of those applications. And as I shared also earlier, you can have a hybrid work environment. You can have permanent licenses that are standalone along with desktop subscriptions, or they can coexist seamlessly in a networked environment. Now, in that networked environment, as I shared about the desktop subscriptions on a single user, how they needed to connect into the internet every 30 days, that is not the case with a term-based network license. They will operate just as your network does today, so there's not that need or requirement to ping into the internet. Now, a common question that comes up is, what can I do with my permanent license after the deadlines I've shared? So let me walk you through a scenario. Let's say that I have a license of AutoCAD and it's a permanent license, and I'd like to have access to Civil 3D as a permanent license. I have between now and the end of next week to migrate, or what Autodesk terms as cross-grade, my AutoCAD license to a permanent license in Civil 3D. Well, what now if it's February 15th and we're past that deadline? What can I do with that AutoCAD permanent license? Well, we're no longer going to be selling an individual permanent license of Civil 3D, but we will still have our creation and design suites available. So after January 31st, if you have that license of AutoCAD, you can still cross-grade that over to one of our design suites that provide you access to Civil 3D as a permanent license, or you can cross-grade it to any of the other permanent licenses that are still available and then will expire or no longer have access to new seats as of July 31st. After July 31st, you're very limited on what you can do with that permanent license because we really will only have a small handful of permanent solutions we'll be selling, as their transition time will take just a little bit longer. So if you have a permanent license and you want to do any kind of transition with it, I highly recommend that you reach out to the Repro Products team so that they can walk through your specific scenario of what you currently own and how you would like to transition it and what your time frame is that you have to do that in. Now, as I shared earlier also, all of our products will be moving to a subscription basis. And as we do that, many times people wonder if they should stock up on permanent licenses. You know, that's not really a question I can answer because each business is unique. So again, I drive you to a meeting, to have a meeting with Repro Products to look at your specifics. Some companies are selecting to purchase some additional permanent licenses before these deadlines to add to their pool of licensing. Some companies see how the hybrid environment is going to work with them, and they'll continue to just add licenses underneath the desktop subscription model to their permanent licenses as they need them. You know, I've only touched on a couple of the perks of subscription, but again, I think probably beyond the core of having access to the newest release and some of the product enhancements, probably one of the biggest advantages is having access to previous releases. So I do want to take a moment and reemphasize that benefit is available under both a maintenance subscription as well as a desktop subscription model. I've already touched on being able to convert a standalone permanent license to a networked permanent license, but I want to take the opportunity to reinforce that the ability to do that is tied to those deadlines. Once the permanent licenses for a particular solution is no longer being sold, you'll no longer have that ability to convert from a from a standalone to a permanent license. Another key component, which I can't stress enough, is the importance of keeping your maintenance subscriptions renewed on time. Again, if you have a current maintenance subscription contract, ensure that it is renewed on time, and again, you can even renew it up to 90 days early. If you let that maintenance subscription contract expire after the end of this month, it will not be option for you to pay a late fee or do a late renewal. There's no grace periods. Your option after it expires will be to transition to the desktop subscription model. And of course, I do get the questions of will I be able to purchase desktops? So we have those available today. So if you are currently using permanent licenses of any of our creation design suites, those are also available to you in the desktop subscription model. So I've tried to share with you some information with regards to shifts and fast shifts actually taking place within the industries, how not just business, but many things that we use personally are shifting to a subscription basis, so this is not unique to Autodesk. What I do think Autodesk has done is has made this transition over several year time periods and have been pretty forward with our communications, our intent of what our goal was. I've also shared with you some specifics about our different subscription vehicles. And again, every business is unique, so you might be asking, well, what really should I be doing next? And really, I have three simple recommendations for you. One, as always, is review the technologies you're using and make sure you're leveraging what's available to you today, but also that you're leveraging them in the most efficient manner to ensure that you're capable to compete, not just today, but going forward. Set up a meeting with Repro Products to really review your business specific and ensure that all the key stakeholders are included in that meeting. So what do I mean by that? If you're listening to this webcast and you're not responsible for the deployment of your licenses, have someone who is join the meeting with Repro Products. If you're not responsible for the funding of the software purchases, and if it's not important to you whether it's a capital expenditure or an operating expense, you may want to have somebody in your organization who is concerned about that also join the meeting so that you can find the best strategy for your organization going forward. And it's a strategy discussion that's beyond just how are you going to subscribe to your software. It's really looking at where you think your staffing is going to go, what are you doing to set that competitive edge or differentiate yourselves from the competition, what are your customers asking for you to deliver, and what are the right solutions to get you to meet those requirements. So with that, Don, I'm going to ask you to come back in to see if there have been any other questions that may have been entered into the chat windows that I haven't answered or that we would like to revisit.
Thank you, Kim. Actually, within our Q&A chat window, we didn't actually have any questions posed. The information was very thorough, and nobody had any kind of questions that pertain to any of the topics. So.
Okay, well, good. I hope this was helpful for everyone.
I hope so as well. Again, for all of our attendees, we do want to say thank you very much for taking your time out this afternoon to attend our presentation. Thank you, Kim, for putting on a great presentation and valuable information. Lastly, a quick call to action for all of our attendees, as Kim was noting. Make sure you get together with the rest of the stakeholders in your office, the decision key makers in regards to your finance, your technology, your software, your management of your personnel, and have a meeting with your account representative from Repro Products. And, let us help you with making sure you're on the right path for your specific business needs. And if you have any questions, again, at any point in time, we are just a phone call away. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and have Kim close out if there's any remaining comments she'd like.
Well, thank you, Don. Again, I hope this was helpful to bring clarity. I know that Repro Products can work closely with anybody who's watching this webcast to address their specific needs. And again, there's a lot of documents and frequently asked question documents on the Autodesk.com website. So I'd like to thank everybody for using our technology. And again, I hope this presentation was helpful.
And then lastly, as a presenter/host for the WebEx system, I will leave this WebEx session open for the next 5-10 minutes so that if anybody would like to ask any questions, they can do so through the Q&A window, and I'll be available. All right, but with that, thank you very much, Kim, and thank you, attendees, for joining our presentation this afternoon.
Thank you.